Attention! Carry on as you were.
All right, sir.
All right.
Okay.
This is the emergency medical treatment tent. This is the first place in the hospital where patients are brought to be cared. They either go to beds 1, 2, 3, or 4, which are up there.
Show me. Walk me to it.
Next, we'll take a look at
You want a picture of them, the coins?
Chandler is one
Chandler.
of our
How you doing?
behavioral health techs.
I'm doing outstanding. Outstanding. Wow. So big work together. Then the first time you worked with the 4 MAP.
Yes, sir.
Correct. And so, what is your thoughts on the team coming together? What do you think?
Each other, but you know, being thrust into an unknown situation with unknown patients and unknown everything really, to suddenly becoming a big family almost and working with each other very closely in just a short time at all, I think is an amazing thing.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yes, sir. I would agree with Specialist Chandler.
Ma'am, you're making me kind of nervous. Sorry. First medical logistics company out of Fort Worth.
Okay.
Right here, right? You about right here. All right. And every door.
Please stand up and everybody see it. He's my professor. Your voice, and we'll get after it.
Can I look at the camera?
I want.
Okay. Taking care of that stuff. Where are you from?
Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. Good.
Oh, from an X-ray though. Actually, technically, Superman.
Patriots. I don't know. Yeah, that might be a. Right AC.
Please.
All right.
Oh yes, ma'am. It's great.
And if we ever have an MH crisis, we also have cool fluids for them as well. So we're going to go forward.
It's unique because it's tying in from the point of injury, you know, at the National Training Center, and casualties coming all the way back via fixed-wing aircraft, landing at an airstrip. You have the Air Force Aeromedical Evacuation Liaison Team plugged in so that once that casualty gets off that aircraft, it comes through the hospital, it runs through the triage, it runs through the treatment, the surgery, and it gets to the ward. Now that AEL team that's from the Air Force is now plugging in and getting that casualty off the ward. So you are exercising the entire spectrum of care from a point of injury evacuation through the hospital, the entire hospital center, and then all the way back out as we get it to the next fixed facility back in Conant. So my piece with the ICTLs is that they're expanding upon the ICTLs because in complex austere environments, medics and entire teams are going to be expected to do more than just their individual tasks. And so you have a lot of cross-training that's going on that's phenomenal. And it's allowing the Army Medicine team to provide reinforcing fires to other sections, whether if you're in the ICU or the ward or the pharmacy or the CMS. They're cross-training because this type of environment alludes to team building, but then this command also has a phenomenal command environment where they want to be a part of the team, and they're doing a phenomenal job. The point that I was trying to make to the FORSCOM GRETHE is that one of the most important words on the battlefield is the cry or the scream for medic. And what that means is that a soldier has been injured in combat, and that soldier or his battle buddy screams out the word medic. And when that word is screamed out, the war fighters are counting on Army medicine to be able to respond. That medic responds and does that initial assessment, that treatment, that stabilization to stop bleeding. Then that medic gets into the system that this exercise trains. They're evacuated successfully within the golden hour and lives are saved. And so this is very important because in the past, the FORSCOM or the large forces did not focus on the Army medicine portion, but they focused just on the war fighting, and then we did a hand wave with the Army medicine piece. But when the word and that cry for medic goes out, our war fighters, our commanders know that they can count on their soldiers' lives to be sustained in combat because they're proficient and excellent at what they do.
Important for you to encourage them to be vocal about those lessons?
Because it is so important that as we reorganize, we've gone through, we're a ready team, we reformed under the, Congress and legislation, but we also reorganized. And as we reorganize, we have to make sure that we got it right. And so in order for us to be responsive and relevant, it takes exercise that the lessons learned are properly documented and that they're pushed up so that we can make changes. And it's not just from the senior officers, but it's often the enlisted, the private, because the private is the one that has to lift it or turn it or twist it or fix it or provide the support to that surgeon or to that nurse or to the ward. It doesn't make a difference. And so it's so important that through the AAR process that the entire team, and my point was that the private's lessons are just important as the major's lessons, and that they must sit down in sections and document all the lessons from each of the different wards and each of the different capacities within the hospital, send that up the chain so that now we at the operations strategic level can make the change to the hospitals and to the sections so that when they are called upon in combat, the hospital is not just ready, but it is also relevant and responsive due to the changes we've made through the lessons learned. With the reorganization under the Defense Health Agency, the mission of AR MEDCOM to continue to train, to validate, to certify in the backfield does not change. That mission is still there. The linkage between Compo 3 and Compo 1 is ever even more so important because even though the DHA transition has occurred, that does not change the operational mission or requirements. And we will continue to have to support each other because it's a total force. And so Compo 1 needs Compo 3, Compo 3 needs Compo 1. Ultimately, we're gonna get rid of all Compos because it's one Army, just different missions, but self and integrated and leaning upon each other. So Compo 3 will continue to do that certification training and backfilling of Compo 1 units. The struggle that we will have to feel is the shortages on the reserve side of the house because the active duty also backfills the reserve side. And one of the things that we're working through with the reverse profis or the map assigned personnel is how to best manage that so that we likewise can support our Compo 3 units when they're called upon to deploy. And so as we look at reverse profis, as we look at the critical wartime specialties, one of the things that we're working with the total force is how do we support each other to make sure that when our units are called upon, whether Compo 1 or Compo 3, that we have the right mix of AOCs and specialties there to complete that mission that that hospital for its surgical team or medical unit must do.
So a lot of the lessons learned are administrative in nature, some policies and procedures that we can affect and change to make the operational functions easier and more efficient in the future. As simple as how we communicate the SRP locations and sites for individuals coming from different locations to something as complex as understanding that this environment out here that we're working in is causing equipment issues due to the fine powder dust sand that is here. So some of those things there are good lessons learned for us to understand and to tweak our processes and our development so that we can fix things on the fly. Back to what you were saying, this is absolutely a must continue type event. We must continue to build this readiness internally and to drive deployability and expeditionary mindset inside of Army medicine.
That's the soundbite.